All right, man, let me ask you something. Why do we instantly trust a celebrity when they talk about a movie role, but freeze when they talk about faith? Why do people listen to famous actors more than to philosophers or spiritual teachers? And here's the biggest one. Why does a single sentence about religion from a public figure suddenly become headline news? You've seen the clip. Sweeney said a few thoughtful words about Islam, and the internet lit up like a Christmas tree. So today, let's talk about that, not in a gossip column way, but as a real conversation about why celebrity voices shake the way we think about faith. Come with me, because in this episode, I'm segment 1, The Power of a Microphone, 3 Men. The first thing you notice in moments like this is how a single microphone changes the weight of words. I've sat across from scientists, monks, UFC fighters, you name it. When somebody famous says something about belief, it carries different gravity. It's not always fair, but that's the world we built. Fame has become a trust badge. Sweeney didn't give a sermon. She just mentioned that she'd been reading, learning, trying to understand a faith that billions of people follow. The clip went everywhere. What fascinates me isn't her statement itself, it's the reaction. Half the internet said, "Good for her, open-minded, curious." The other half said, "Why is she talking about this?" That's the divide, curiosity versus caution. Maybe that reaction tells us more about the audience than about her. Here's what I've learned after years behind the mic. Fame magnifies curiosity, are drawn to the intersection where celebrity meets philosophy. When a movie star talks about diet or mental health, everyone wants the routine. When that same star talks about faith, suddenly it's controversial. Why? Because faith forces reflection. It's not entertainment, it's identity. So when Sydney mentions Islam, or when any actor, athlete, or musician talks about prayer, meditation, or surrender, it pokes at something deeper in us. We start asking, wait, what do I believe? That's uncomfortable, but it's also powerful. Breaks the illusion that celebrities live only in that glitter bubble. It shows they're human, searching, doubting, learning. And maybe that's why we watch. We see our own confusion mirrored in someone who supposedly has everything. Social media adds gasoline to every spark. The algorithm doesn't care about context, about emotion, shock, outrage, admiration, whatever keeps you scrolling. So when a famous person speaks about Islam, Christianity, pick your label. The system amplifies the reaction, not the reflection. Clips get chopped, captions get twisted, and suddenly a peaceful comment becomes a culture war headline. And yet, people still click. Maybe because deep down we crave authentic conversation. We want to hear someone famous talk about something real instead of the next product launch. That's why these moments matter. Crack open space for discussion that normally stays buried under hashtags and filters. What impressed me in that Sweeney moment wasn't the topic, it was the tone. She didn't claim to know everything. She said she was learning, listening. That's the vibe we need more of. I've had guests from every background imaginable, Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, and the best conversations come from humility. The second someone says, "I've got all the answers," the room gets smaller, but curiosity makes the room bigger. Think about it. Billions of people practice Islam, yet in Western pop culture, it's often reduced to stereotypes. When a celebrity publicly says, "Hold on, curious about this," it challenges that simplicity. It invites people to research instead of react. That's progress, even if it's messy. There's another layer to this. Celebrities are mirrors. We project our hopes, our fears, our contradictions onto them. So when someone famous explores faith, it triggers whatever story we already carry. Grew up hearing negative things about a religion, seeing a respected actor speak kindly about it can feel like a plot twist. If you're already part of that faith, you might feel seen or nervous that the conversation could go wrong. That's why these cultural moments are so electric. They're not really about the celebrity, they're about us. We want to believe we're open-minded, but when a public figure tests that openness, we find out where our limits are. Maybe that's the real reason these clips go viral. They force self-reflection disguised as entertainment. Here's where it gets tricky. Should celebrities even talk about faith publicly? Some people say no, that it's too personal, that it invites backlash. Others say yes, that fame comes with responsibility to use your platform for something meaningful. I think the answer lies somewhere in the middle. Talk about what's real to you, but stay humble, because once you have millions of ears, your words echo far beyond intention. I remember when guests on this show opened up about spirituality. The DMs flooded in, people thanking them for giving language to something they'd felt but couldn't say out loud. That's the upside. The downside is that the internet often clips a 10-second sound bite and builds a whole narrative around it. So authenticity becomes a tightrope walk. I'd rather see people walk that rope than live in silence. Look, the world's loud right now. Politics, culture, war, social media noise, everything's turned up to 11. Faith conversations, when done with respect, slow things down. They remind us that beyond the headlines, we're all searching for meaning. And that's what Sweeney's clip accidentally did. It made millions of people pause and think, even for a second, about how they see a religion that's been misrepresented for decades. That's the kind of viral moment I actually like, one that makes people think instead of fight. Whether you agree with her or not, you can't deny the impact. Small spark of curiosity turned into global dialogue. That's wild. I look at all this from a distance. It feels like a shift. 10 years ago, celebrity talk about faith was career suicide. Now it's conversation fuel. Maybe that's growth. Maybe audiences are finally hungry for authenticity over image. When you strip away fame, religion, whatever, what we're really talking about is connection. The idea that people with different paths can still understand one another. And if a few honest words from a Hollywood actor can spark that, then that's something worth paying attention to. So what did we learn from all this? Maybe that curiosity is contagious. Maybe that faith, when spoken about with respect, doesn't divide, it invites. Sweeney didn't solve world peace. She just reminded us that asking sincere questions is still allowed. And that's refreshing. The next time a celebrity talks about belief, any belief, try listening instead of labeling. Because behind the fame and the filters, doing what we're all doing, trying to make sense of the chaos. And if that conversation leads even one person to learn instead of judge, then yeah, that's a win. Stay curious, stay kind, and keep asking the questions that make the world uncomfortable, because that's where the real growth happens. I want to unpack what's really going on, why it matters, and what it says about us